The top stories tonight in Y News. Filipinos in Israel are advised to stay vigilant as exchange of airstrikes and rocket fires between Israel and Palestinian militant group Hamas escalates.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says he will still speak about West Philippine Sea issues despite Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr.'s final warning to lay off his turf.
The Department of Health expresses confidence that the government can use up to 2 million doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines before they expire in the next 2 months. Several patients were evacuated after a fire broke out in the storage facility of the Pasig City General Hospital.
Doctors in India warn against using cow manure as COVID-19 remedy.
And know why posting images of report cards and diplomas on social media is dangerous. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Wednesday, May 12, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. Filipinos in Israel are advised to take the necessary precautions as hostilities between Israeli forces and Palestinian militants in Gaza escalate. Mariela Toza will give us the details live. Yes, Marielle.
Harleen, the Philippine Embassy in Israel issued an advisory to Filipinos to avoid public places, especially the areas near Gaza and the West Bank. Hundreds of rockets were fired by Palestinian militants into Israel, while Israel carried out heavy airstrikes on Gaza. At least 35 Palestinians, including 10 children and 5 Israelis, have been killed in the violence so far. Israel's military says it is targeting militants in Gaza in response to rocket attacks on Jerusalem and other areas. The Palestinian militants said they targeted the Israeli city of Tel Aviv after an Israeli airstrike demolished a tower block in the Gaza Strip on Tuesday. The fighting came after weeks of rising tensions that were stoked by violent confrontations between Israeli police and Palestinian protesters at a site in Jerusalem that is holy to both Muslims and Jews. The international community has urged both sides to end the escalation. Meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy in Israel has not yet received any report of Filipino casualties. But the embassy further advises our kababayans near the affected areas to take refuge on bomb shelters when hearing the siren. Taking photos or videos of the escalating tension is also prohibited, as this may endanger their lives. Filipinos who may require the embassy's assistance may call their hotline number at +972 544 661 188. Harleen, as of January, 29,473 Filipinos are living and working in Israel. Most of them are employed as caregivers and household service workers. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Mariela Toza, reporting live from Australia. There was no stopping presidential spokesperson Harry Roque from talking about the issues on the West Philippine Sea. This despite a stern warning from Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. to lay off his turf. Rosa Licons explains why.
In his tweet yesterday, Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin Jr. stressed that his agency has the exclusive remit over the country's foreign affairs and issued a last warning to those who would speak about the issue. The DFA chief made a statement following presidential spokesperson Harry Roque's controversial claim yesterday on the Julian Felipe Reef. According to Roque, he has already talked with Secretary Locsin over the issue. He added they are in good terms. When asked if he will still discuss West Philippine Sea issues, despite the strong statements of Secretary Locsin, he said he will discuss in his next public briefing the baselines law and arbitral ruling. Presidential spokesperson Roque has clarified he never claimed that Julian Felipe Reef is not ours. He made the clarification after his controversial statement yesterday that the Philippines was never in possession of the reef.
Well, all we're saying is we were never in possession of that area. And we're making a big thing out of the fact that that area naman in the first place was never under our possession. So pinalalaki po. Pinalalaki ang issue. Ang issue po talaga dyan is unang-una, fishing. Kasi alam mo, hindi po yan kabahagi ng ating EEZ, yung Julian Felipe. Labas po yan. Ganyan pong kalayo yan. Kaya lang, meron tayong claim dun sa Julian Felipe as an island. Kaya we claim na meron niyang territorial seas. So pinalalaki po yan ng ating mga kalaban talaga. Dahil ang ating claim dyan is because of the PD, pero ang totoong nag-aagawan dyan sa area na yan ay Vietnam at saka ang China.
Despite this, Roque reiterated the Philippines never abandoned our claim in Julian Felipe Reef. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Some senators have expressed their disappointment following the exchanges of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. and presidential spokesperson Harry Roque concerning the West Philippine Sea. This comes after Roque claimed that the Philippines was never in possession of the Julian Felipe Reef and that it is not within the country's exclusive economic zone. Senator Risa Hontiveros calls it irresponsible, adding that the palace should stop spreading lies. According to Senator Hontiveros, Secretary Roque's statement also dishonors the pronouncements and efforts of other government agencies in asserting the country's sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea and even the stories of our fishermen. She adds that this goes against all the diplomatic protests filed by the Department of Foreign Affairs. Meanwhile, Senator Francis Pangilinan believes the contradicting statements of some members of the president's cabinet only show that there is no one in charge of the West Philippine Sea issue. The senator adds only China would be happy to see how the executive department handles the issue. Meanwhile, for Senate President Vicente Soto III, he will listen to Secretary Locsin's voice on the matter. Senator Coco Pimentel, for his part, advises the executive branch to follow a script written by the DFA, limit those who will talk about the issue, and form an elite team that will educate the public on the West Philippine Sea issue. Earlier, Locsin issued a warning to those who would speak about the subject, saying that matters concerning the country's foreign affairs, including the West Philippine Sea issue, should be left to his department.
Meanwhile, a security analyst presumes that the apparent contradicting positions of top government officials about the claim over the Julian Felipe Reef might become a leverage to other countries to assert their claims in the West Philippine Sea. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
The Philippines' claim in the Julian Felipe Reef is in jeopardy if the government officials will not unite in its position in the West Philippine Sea. According to Professor Romel Banlawi, a security analyst, the contradicting statements of some top government officials will not help to assert our claims in the region. Instead, it will be used as leverage of other claimant country.
I-indicate nito na the Philippines lacks national unity when it comes to our national positions on the West Philippine Sea, and that will give other claimants strong leverage to assert their claims.
Recently, Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. calls out presidential spokesman Harry Roque about his statement on the West Philippine Sea issue. Secretary Roque said that Julian Felipe Reef is not within the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. The DFA secretary in his Twitter account emphasized that the final word on the issue of the West Philippine Sea lies in the hands of the DFA and no one else. According to Banlawi, it's better to leave the policy in the West Philippine Sea to the DFA and maritime law enforcement agencies.
But because of the existence of other claimants, then the Department of Foreign Affairs can deal with other claimants. But when it comes to enforcement, it must be our domestic enforcement agencies, like the Philippine Maritime Police when it comes to the 12 nautical miles territorial sea or municipal waters, and Coast Guard to assert our sovereign rights of 200 nautical miles and beyond that.
Department of National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana earlier said that Philippine vessels will not withdraw in the West Philippine Sea amid tension with China. The new tensions emerged after Chinese vessels swarmed the Julian Felipe Reef. As a result, the DFA files daily diplomatic protest over China's continued presence in the disputed waters. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A number of Chinese vessels have been seen scattered in various features of the municipality of Kalayaan in the province of Palawan during the latest maritime patrol. Citing a report from the Area Task Force West on the results of its maritime patrol on May 9, the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, or NTF-WPF, said that a total of 287 Chinese maritime militia vessels were sighted in Kalayaan waters, both within and outside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. The NTF-WPS said that the Philippine government continues to strengthen its presence in the WPS with a view towards law enforcement, deterrence of illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, and protection of the welfare and safety of our fisherfolk. The task force also urged Filipino fishermen to sail and fish in the West Philippine Sea.
The government continues its swine recovery program, which aims to help hog producers recover lost income and make pork supply available to consumers at affordable prices. According to the Department of Agriculture, it may take 3 years before the country sees improvements in the local hog industry. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, welcomed the declaration of the nationwide state of calamity due to the African swine fever. According to DA Secretary William Dar, the proclamation will allow local government units, or LGUs, to set aside part of their calamity fund to allocate for the prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, rehabilitation, and recovery that may be brought by the ASF incidents in their respective areas.
Kung may resources po kami na pwede namin i-realign, ito po ay pwede nang gagawin dito po sa under the state of calamity.
The DA is also eyeing for the enactment of the Bayanihan 3 for the inclusion of the additional 6.6 billion peso budget for the swine recovery program. The program includes the hog repopulation, which has an initial 600 million peso fund. With the 27 billion peso estimated funding, Secretary Dar believes that within 3 years, the supply of pork in the country will improve. Other programs that need to be funded includes the test kits and vaccines for ASF. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
In other news, Vice President Leni Robredo's camp today refuted the claim of former Senator Antonio Trillanes that the country's second top official is preparing to run for a gubernatorial post in Camarines Sur, Bicol. According to VP Robredo's spokesman Barry Gutierrez, she is still open to run for president in the 2022 election. Gutierrez added that the Vice President's focus now is helping Filipinos in battling the pandemic. Earlier, the Magdalo Group decided for Trillanes to vie for the nomination of opposition coalition Isang Bayan as its presidential candidate instead of being an alternative to Vice President Robredo.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Groups from film and tourism industries are appealing for support from the government to help them stay afloat amid the pandemic. One of the groups even described their situation as survival mode. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Various industries have been hardly hit by the pandemic, and one of them is the film industry. The Philippine Motion Pictures Producers Association says the industry comprises an estimated 300,000 workers, and many of them have lost their jobs as cinemas and theaters remain closed. And despite the presence of digital platforms, it is not enough for the industry to stay afloat, adding that the threat of piracy persists. The industry has lost almost 16 billion pesos from 2020 up to the present.
Many people claim that our industry is non-essential and ano ba yan, gumagawa lang naman kayong pelikula. But what many others fail to comprehend is the fact that many depend on this industry, from makeup artists, you have post-production houses, you have catering services.
The group is appealing to the government to call for a tax holiday, such as the amusement tax that is being paid to local government units.
Right now, we're on a survival mode. We tried so many times to stream online. Whatever we are earning from these platforms ay nababat pa. Nawi-withheld pa ng tax. Ang mahal-mahal na gumawa ng pelikula ngayon. Tumaas na yung production namin ng 30% because we need to put everyone in a bubble.
Meanwhile, several groups in the tourism sector are also asking the government to reopen the borders for domestic tourism. They are also requesting for wage subsidies for displaced workers. The Philippine Travel Agency Association adds most of their members are not qualified to avail of the loan program of the government.
As much as possible, ma-open na rin na po sana yung borders natin para magkaroon po ng trabaho yung mga taong nasa turismo, kasi mas kailangan po namin yung trabaho at i-open yung negosyo kesa yung umasa po kami palagi sa mga ayuda na binibigay.
The SB Corporation, which has over 4 billion pesos to loan for the tourism sector, says it is studying to extend the one-year grace period to encourage the affected businesses to avail of the program. The Philippine Tour Operators Association is also hoping that more tourism frontliners will be included in the vaccination priority list. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Quezon City government has apprehended more than 3,000 individuals in a one-time big-time joint operation in the city's 142 barangays. The violators were lectured on the city's ordinances on health protocols against coronavirus. JP Nunez reports why.
Not wearing of face shields and improper wearing of face masks. These are the common violations of more than 3,000 persons that were apprehended in Quezon City today. The violators were brought to the Quezon Memorial Circle for proper documentation and a lecture on the ordinances pertaining to minimum health protocols in the city. They were also issued ordinance violation receipts with a corresponding penalty of 300 pesos, 500 pesos, and 1,000 pesos for the first, second, and third offense respectively.
Ito, pinaigting natin yung enforcement para madala ang ating mga mamamayan na dapat sundin nila yung mga tinakdang health protocol ng IATF at city government. Para doon kasi maibisan natin yung paglaganap ng coronavirus na yan.
Annalie Advincula was given a ticket for not wearing a face mask properly. However, Advincula defended that she was drinking coffee during that time.
Nasa palengke po kami sa vendors. Ngayon, nagkakape po ako. Tama-tama po. Siyempre, nababa, kumakain ako po ng poto, naibaba ang kape at saka kumakain ako ng poto. Dumating pong pinakain ng MDAT. Hinuli po ako.
Meanwhile, other violators took the apprehension as a lesson.
Alam po, nakalimutan ko magsuot. Pati pag-face mask, nakalimutan ko na nga. Aral ho ito sa amin. Talagang susunod na tayo sa protocol ng pinagbabawal. Lagi naka-face mask. kahit saan pumunta.
The apprehended individuals will have to pay the fine within 5 days. If they fail to pay within this time period, depots will file a case before the city prosecutor's office, and this will reflect on the violator's police clearance upon application. Mayor Joy Belmonte expressed her concern about the increasing COVID-19 cases and appealed to residents to follow the city ordinances on minimum health protocols to protect themselves and their families. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And the Philippines' total tally of COVID-19 cases is now at 1,118,359 after the Department of Health or DOH reported additional 4,842 infections. In its latest bulletin, the DOH said the country's total number of active cases is down to 53,214. Of these, 93% are mild, 2.4% are asymptomatic, 1.9% are severe, and 1.4% are in critical condition. The agency, however, noted that the low daily case count is due to low testing output of laboratories last Monday, May 10. The DOH also said that the total recoveries have increased to 1,046,431 after additional 8,312 patients recovered from the viral respiratory illness. The death toll, however, climbed to 18,714 after 94 more coronavirus-related deaths were recorded.
Several cities in Metro Manila have begun their rollout of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, additional 15,000 doses of Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccines from Russia are expected to arrive in the Philippines tonight. Marvin Calas reports.
1,500 individuals today went under vaccination in San Juan City, including healthcare workers, senior citizens, and adults with comorbidity. It is the first time the city is using the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines, which arrived in the country on Monday night. 11,700 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines was handed to San Juan City.
Lahat ng preparasyon ito kailangan talaga paghandaan mabuti. Kung hindi, ay posibleng makompromiso ang efficacy ng ating bakuna. Kaya pinag-aralan talaga ito mabuti at nag-training ang ating mga staff.
Aside from San Juan, Makati City had also started its vaccination using Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines held in Makati Medical Center. 5,800 doses were allocated in Makati and will be divided to 500 individuals in a daily basis. Meanwhile, the city of Manila had also received more than 7,000 doses of Pfizer vaccines, and its vaccination starts tomorrow for A1 to A3 priority group. The vaccination will be held at Santa Ana Hospital for the initial 210 doses and will be witnessed by several hospital directors from the hospitals managed by the city.
Dahil sabay nito, yung ibang direktor ng ating panglimang ospital, no, ay manonood, babantayan, titingnan, aaralin sa actual deployment upang matuturi sila na sa ganon ma-deploy natin sa 6 na ospital, hindi lang isang ospital, ang ating Pfizer na mayroong konting karagdagang pag-iingat sa pag-manage ng bakuna.
Quezon City likewise received 5,800 doses of Pfizer vaccines, and the vaccination schedule is tomorrow. All cities prepared an ultra-cold freezer that can reach 80 degrees Celsius temperature due to the vaccine's sensitive vaccine requirement. These are the first batch of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines from COVAX facility of the World Health Organization. The vaccine has a 95% efficacy rate and is recommended for 16 to 65 years old and above. Marvin Calas, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
There are now 500,000 Filipinos who are fully vaccinated against coronavirus disease 2019. The Department of Health, meanwhile, addresses concerns on how fast the government can administer nearly 2 million AstraZeneca vaccines that will expire in 1 to 2 months' time. Aiko Miguel explains why.
A total of 514,655 individuals in the country have received their second dose of COVID-19 vaccines. Department of Health Undersecretary Mirna Kabutay said the Philippines has so far administered a total of 2,539,693 doses in 1,047 active vaccination sites as of May 11. Of this number, 2,025,038 people have received their first dose. Kabutay said the government is targeting to increase the average vaccinees per day this May to more than 70,000 and up to 100,000 in the second quarter to expedite the vaccination rollout. Meanwhile, the Health Undersecretary explains that the number of vaccinated Filipinos also depends on the vaccine supply in the country. The country has already received 7.7 million COVID-19 vaccine doses. And based on the AstraZeneca vaccine information, there are 1.5 million doses set to expire on June 30 and 525,600 doses set to expire on July 31. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso expressed dismay over the super slow COVID-19 distribution of the government.
May nangako naman yan eh. Ngayon, hindi dumarating. Hindi ko alam kung pinatutubuan pa nila sa kanilang refrigerator itong mga bakunang ito. That I don't know. There must be somebody who's going to be liable. Because if you believe that vaccination is the solution to restart the economy, bumalik sa normal ng buhay ng tao, ang bakuna hindi dapat pinatatagal kung saan bodega. Ang reliable na yung supply sa mundo, ang reliable pa pag dumating dito. Kasi ang bagal. Ako na po nagsasabi sa inyo, hindi po mabagal, super bagal.
The national vaccination operation stands firm that AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines will be distributed before they will expire. Meanwhile, an initial shipment of almost 200,000 doses of Moderna vaccines are set to arrive in the country on June 15. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A group of bus companies says there had been delays in the payout of several bus lines currently operating under the free bus ride program on EDSA. But the Mega Manila Consortium Corporation explains that the long passenger queue on the EDSA busway has nothing to do with the subsidy delays. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
Several public commuters of Metro Rail Transit or MRT Line 3 prefer to avail the free bus ride program of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board. This is the primary reason for the long queue of passengers in EDSA busway that was identified by the Mega Manila Consortium Corporation or MMCC, a group of bus companies. MMCC spokesperson Rene Mapili explains that this concern is not related to the delays of payout in the program under the LTFRB service contracting.
Unfair naman po na sabihin na nililimitahan porket libre. Wala po. Kahit wala pong sakayan, natakpo yan. Makikita nyo po yan dyan sa EDSA. Pagka lean hours po, ang sakay niya isa, tumatakbo po yan sa EDSA.
Mapili further explains that the payout delays are only being experienced by just some bus companies.
Kapag release naman ng mga payouts na sila meron lang iba na hindi. Although, ang may problem doon, katulad sa amin, kami may problem doon. Kulang lang kami ng ibang requirements na dapat na isubmit na namin sa kanila.
Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade, on the other hand, says he will verify the LTFRB's payout process to find ways in avoiding any delay. He also appeals to concerned agencies in the road sector to help the displaced bus drivers and conductors.
Meron tayong programang tinatawag na service contracting. Please lang, meron tayong mga programang ginagawa na sabi natin kailangan bigyan ng pagkakataon maghanap buhay yung mga displaced drivers and conductor. Please lang, i-repass at inform natin yung tinatawag na super escola na kung saan binibigyan sila ng pagkakataon mag-aral ng mga katagdag kaalaman sa TESDA at sa ganun, yung kaalaman sa paghahanap buhay ay mapalawig.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine National Police Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar implemented a major reshuffle, naming Calabarzon Police Chief Brigadier General Felipe Rivera Natividad as the newest director of the Elite Special Action Force. Leia Ilagan reports.
PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar presided the turnover of command between Police Major General Bernabe Balba, outgoing Special Action Force or SAF Director, and Police Brigadier General Felipe Natividad at Camp Bagong Diwa in Taguig City. Eleazar expressed confidence that Natividad would lead the elite force with professionalism and high integrity in battling terrorism, insurgency, crime groups, and other high-value target criminals. Natividad is known for his role in running after a small group of Abu Sayyaf members who landed in Bohol to conduct kidnapping and other terrorism activities during his term as the province police director. Meanwhile, former SAF Director Balba was designated as the new director of the Directorate for Integrated Police Operations Visayas. Eleazar also thanked Balba for his contributions to improve the operational capability of SAF, not only in the field of law enforcement, anti-insurgency and anti-terrorism operations, but also in disaster relief and response. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Several patients were evacuated after a fire broke out in a portion of the Pasig City General Hospital this morning. The hospital assures that all patients as well as COVID-19 vaccines are safe. Marvin Calas reports.
The second floor of Pasig City General Hospital went ablaze past 10 this morning. The fire started at the hospital's storage room where medical supplies were kept. The fire spread faster after hitting the stockpile of alcohol, which prompted the Bureau of Fire Protection to raise it to a third alarm past 11 this morning. An investigation is underway routing the cause of the fire.
Ito po ay tambakan ng mga, or let's say storage ng mga kagamitan ng hospital kagaya ng tissue paper, alcohol, and so on, mga office documents.
It was declared fire out at 3 p.m. No hospital staff were injured and all patients were immediately evacuated.
Wala po naman ng nasaktan o nasugatan na mga personnel ng ating pong hospital kasi mabilis daw po yung evacuation ng mga tao po. And itong adjacent building na may mga pasyente, nailabas na rin po yung mga pasyente bago po lumaki po yung sunog sa storage area ng hospital.
In a tweet, Mayor Vico Soto was grateful that no one got harmed in the incident, adding that all affected patients were transferred to a different facility. The UNTV news team tried to take the hospital's statement, but the management refused to comment on the incident. Nevertheless, the management assured that no COVID-19 vaccines were burned by the fire, as it was stored in a different facility. Marvin Calas, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, as the coronavirus crisis continued to hit India, doctors are alerted as some believers have been smearing cow dung in their belief that this will ward off COVID-19 infection. Marvi Delfin will give us the details live. Marvi?
In the state of Gujarat in western India, some Hindu believers are covering their entire bodies with cow dung in their belief that this will give them immunity against COVID-19. In Hinduism, the cow is a sacred symbol and its manure is used to clean homes and for prayer rituals. According to Gautam Manilal Bariza, a participant of the said therapy, the practice helped him recover from COVID infection last year, and he has seen doctors do the same therapy as well. However, doctors in India and across the world warns against the alternative treatment, as there is no scientific evidence of it preventing COVID-19, and there is a risk of spreading diseases from the animals to humans. According to Dr. J.A. Jayalal, National President at the Indian Medical Association, this could lead to people's false sense of security and could pose other health problems. According to a person in charge of a cow shelter, they they are limiting the number of participants of the said remedy to prevent further spread of the virus. Meanwhile, the total number of COVID infections in India is reaching 24 million, with over 254,000 deaths. Back to you, Kath.
Thank you, Marvido Finn, for that live report. New studies have recently discovered the dangers of using gas stove tops within households. Early Briones reports why.
As majority of people cook every day, Australia's Climate Council organization have claimed that using gas stoves indoors can result of an increase in the concentration of nitrogen dioxide by 50 to 400% compared to homes with electric stoves. High concentration of this chemical compound will then lead to the poor quality of the air, making it dangerous for those within the same household. In addition, the elevation of nitrogen dioxide concentration within a household may be considered as illegal outdoors. This can also be a risk to the fast development of long-term illnesses such as cancer, an interference with hormones, a trigger for asthma and other respiratory illnesses. Further studies by Climate Council have found how gas is responsible for 12% of the burden in childhood asthma in Australia, and have found a link between gas and early life development issues. In order to prevent developing such illnesses is to start with small precautionary measures, if not in the capability of renovating the whole kitchen. Allow proper ventilation by simply opening windows when cooking, using extraction fans over stoves and appliances, getting proper services regularly. By applying these small changes into everyday life, it may not only help improve health but also help save money and the environment. Early Briones, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Kat Dumaraos, live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening.
Meanwhile, the Anti-Terrorism Council will publish tomorrow a list of persons as well as entities designated as terrorists. Dante Amento tells us why live. Yes, Dante.
Harleen National Security Advisor Secretary Hermogenes Esperon has disclosed during today's oral arguments on petitions against the anti-terrorism law that the Anti-Terrorism Council, or ATC, will publish tomorrow a list of individuals it has designated as terrorists. This after Supreme Court Associate Justice Rosemary Carandang asks if individuals have also been designated terrorists under the new law. Esperon, who is also the ATC Vice Chairperson, confirmed that they have already a copy of the resolution. December of last year, the Anti-Terrorism Council had already designated the Communist Party of the Philippines and the New People's Army, or CPP-NPA, and some other organizations as terrorists. Under Section 25 of the Anti-Terror Law, the ATC has the authority to designate individuals, group of individuals, organizations, or associations as terrorists without a court hearing. And after designation, it will allow the Anti-Money Laundering Council, or AMLAC, to freeze assets of personalities or organizations. Tagged individuals, however, are given 15 days to file a request for delisting. Meanwhile, Esperon stresses that the anti-terror law is necessary, especially this time that the terrorism evolves and continuously getting worse. Harlina Esperon also believes that the anti-terror law is better as compared to the Human Security Act of 2007, which the new law has been repealed. And that's the latest. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Dante Amento, for those updates.
While many parents and learners are excited and proud of their school accomplishments, the Department of Education, or DepEd, warns that posting images or photos of a student's report card, diploma, and certificates on social media poses certain risks. Janice Inhente will tell us why.
The Department of Education considers any identifiable information of learners as highly classified information, meaning it should not be posted on social media under any circumstances. These documents include certificates of completion, school cards and diplomas which bear the learner's reference number or LRN, signatures of school officials, school's name, and more. Posting important information online might subject the learner parents, or even school to possible dangers and problems such as every learner is issued a Learner Reference Number or LRN. This number could easily be used for crimes like identity theft or fraud. Diplomas and certificates bear the learner's full name and the school's name and address. Anyone can easily locate the learner's whereabouts and location and make them easy targets for people with criminal intent. The names and signatures of school administrators and principals, including the logo and headers of the schools, also appear in the diploma and certificates. This can easily be copied and edited and be used to ask for solicitation or worse, even extortion. Diploma and certificate can easily be copied and reproduced with malicious intent. They can create fake copies and pass it on to fraudsters. According to DepEd's Data Privacy Notice, the data and information they collected are protected and deemed confidential and private under the Data Privacy Act of 2012. While the agency remains committed in ensuring free flow of information under the Freedom of Information Act, this information needs to be safeguarded for privacy. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, May 12, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.